okay, I have an economic degree and I can prove now only with this paper that I'm good in economics. But this is under question in the meanwhile, because how long does a degree last? A university degree, 4 years minimum, sometimes 6 years and 8 years. And you started 6 years ago with a computer science study, and now you are graduating. So everyone can imagine it's almost outdated. So what's the value now of this paper? This is the future where I'm inviting everyone to really not only rely on the degree.
Welcome to AI Ketchup, the podcast catching up with the tech products that matter in the AI era.
Welcome to the AI Ketchup. My name is Alina and I'm your host. Today we are joined by Ekrem Namazci, who is the founder of LIYA. He has transitioned from an untraditional background to being the data and AI lead at Microsoft. He has also pioneered an API-powered approach to building skills, and he has scaled the technical platforms around Asian continent as well as in Europe. Welcome to the show, Ekrem.
Hello, thanks for having me. Hi, Alina.
There should have been a special moment when you have realized that exactly in technical roles, something is going wrong. And that something is how we are preparing the future employees and people that are willing to acquire certain skills for the job. And I've also seen that in your previous interviews, you have been highlighting certain things that are important to pay attention to when someone is building their skill set. How do you see these pillars of what the industry requires, and what do you recommend people to pay attention to?
Well, we need to look into the history of technology and how it evolves, right? So, because in the past, technology and everything related to AI was done by experts and used by experts, right? So a personal computer, for instance, when IBM brought up the first one, only the expert could use, right? So this was the first evaluation role. Afterwards, the second wave was done by experts, but used by everybody. I explained it as an iPhone moment, right? So the smartphone is a high-tech product, but everyone from 7 to 77 can use it without any instruction. So, but now we are living in a third wave where technology, AI, can be developed by anyone and used by anyone, together with low code, no code, ChatGPT, AI agents, and so on and so forth. So, which means the coding itself, the technical expertise, is not that relevant anymore. Rather, how to use it, what is the product behind, what is the value behind, what is my target group, who is using, how it's using, and so on. So which means, and this requires completely new set of skills. For example, industry knowledge, because an application in the automotive industry is completely different than in the healthcare industry or in the education industry. Having this domain expertise, knowing what this industry going through, what are the trends over there, it's even more important to understand, to know, to master, and then give a clear guidance to the AI agents, for instance, or to the developers or whatsoever, in order to get the best result out of it.
That is indeed something that I have never thought about. That is so true that previously the technical products were built for the people that are having similar background to yours. And now we are letting the end product to be used also by people completely out of their area of expertise.
You remember the server parties, right? Where all the nerds took their PCs and carrying it to a club or to a room and connecting each other through the network and playing online games, for example. So this was really done by nerds for nerds only, right? It was a closed club, more or less, right? But it's totally opened up itself.
Definitely. What I'm also thinking about is that in our previous conversations, you have not once divided between skills and degrees and having the need for both. At the same time, for me, having rather traditional background of finishing school, doing my bachelor's, doing my master's, I think that this skill set wasn't something that I was very specifically pursuing. That may be something that you could walk us through in terms of how LIYA works and how you build the skills that are actually future-proof, and at the same time, how do you define what skills you should be building, and depending on whether you are having a certain degree or not, how this impacts this approach to choosing what to work on the regular basis that the skill requires.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally into skills over degree, and I'm a big fan of skills. But of course, you can gain skills through a degree as well. But here comes the thing. So a degree alone was a good proof point of saying, okay, I have an economic degree, and I can prove now only with this paper that I'm good in economics. I have a computer science degree, and I'm having a proof point that this is now my skill set. But this is kind of under question in the meanwhile, because how long does a degree last, a university degree, for example? 4 years minimum, sometimes 6 years and 8 years. And you started 6 years ago with a computer science study, and now you are graduating. So everyone can imagine it's almost outdated. So what's the value now of this paper? So that's why we are living in a fast changing space world where the degree alone is not a proof point any longer and not the only one. So I need to add this with project works, with internship, with soft skills predominantly. So in order to complete my personality, saying, okay, I have a degree or not, but I have a skill set of future skills which are applicable for the job I'm desired to work for. So, which means always reverse engineering. So, what is your overall end goal of your profession, of your job, of your industry? So, I want to work in healthcare. So, I would like to combine healthcare with digital, for example. So, set this goal and then reverse engineer what kind of skills you need for this. So I need digital skills, healthcare skills, AI skills, and so on and so forth. So this is the second question you need to answer. And then give the answer how and where to get those skills. So is it necessarily to go to a school, to a boot camp, to university, or is it enough to go on Udemy or join forces with some like-minded people and do actual practical work? So, because at the end of the day, on the end side, if you apply for a job, they will only ask about your skills and not about your degree any longer. Right? This is maybe a strategy we need to apply, and everyone can then decide, okay, what is the my skill library more or less? What are the relevant skills I may need for my desired job? Or desired role later on, and then really define where to get and how to get. Meanwhile, almost all of the occupations have the possibility to gain skills through alternative routes. I call them stars. So S for skills, T for through, A for alternative, R for routes. We need more stars, and we have a lot of stars. So, and if you come in and say, okay, I have the skills, and if you ask, oh, how? Yeah, through alternative routes. So bootcamp, practical knowledge, project work, internship, voluntary work, or whatsoever, right? So, and then I think you are ready to jump on this future role you desire.
Well, design your career, that's what they say, right? And that does make sense. So first to have the end goal in terms of, well, probably certain position that you are targeting, then defining what skills are necessary, and then defining the way of acquiring the skills. Makes sense.
Sounds really simple, Elena. But here comes also the flip side. And I know that maybe the listeners may say, yeah, sounds great, Ekrem, but I even don't know which job is suiting to me, right? So, and this is where the pain point starts. There are a lot of trendy jobs like UX designer, data science, AI engineer, product owner, product manager, project manager, customer success, and so on and so forth. We in business, we know all of these titles and professions and we know what's behind. The majority of the people, they even don't know what it is. I mean, what's behind this role. So do some kind of job discovery and exploration and get a lot of insights in terms of, okay, day in the life of XYZ, and then decide, oh, wow, this sounds really appealing to me and suits me best.
I'm so glad that you brought it up because on the one hand, I definitely struggled with understanding what type of career I want to have. And on the other side, when I have thought about joining big tech, I have targeted certain roles within FANG companies or Magnificent Seven, whatever we call it. I then have stumbled upon the role of mine, which is called Solutions Architect. And it took me, honestly, several weeks to understand why it is even in plural, why it is saying Solutions Architect. What is this whole thing about? And then it definitely doesn't map one-to-one at all to the degrees. Not all colleagues of mine were having any academic degree. So then it meant that they were mapping to certain aspirations of theirs. And then it was very interesting to see how the target that I was having, so I do want to be a solutions architect, could be transformed into something that I can then show through the interviews and through, well, onboarding as well.
What was your source, Elena? Where did you get the information? What is a solution architect is all about?
That is where it comes into what I think you're doing very well, namely mentorship. So what I have done, I have reached out to people that were having this title, but not only from Amazon, but also from other companies. I have reached out to existing solutions architects on LinkedIn. I have gotten several people into, well, a bit more of warm contacts, and then they have, conducted with me several calls. And that was extremely helpful for me to understand, okay, what is required? What is the job about? Do I feel that that is my thing? And that is how the aspect of mentorship, or at least this preliminary introduction to a certain role has happened to me.
Oh,
And that is something that you're putting focus on as well. So AI powered mentorship, correct?
yeah, absolutely. And I love it. And the listeners may think this is a scripted question for me to you, all right? And the mentorship, it's because I'm doing mentorship. It was not. It's great, excellent that you really also counting so much on mentorship. But exactly, this is one very major benefit, especially young professionals can gain through mentors, learning on the shoulders of giants, so to call, right? Because they can see far up, I mean, in terms of career, because they've been going this ups and downs for a while, and they are in a certain level of experience, not only knowledge. This is so powerful. And in the meanwhile, with LinkedIn and all this, I mean, communities out there, so easy to reach, right? So again, it's very simple. I mean, you're reading something about solution architect, go to LinkedIn and just search on who is doing this job in my, I mean, geography, reach out to them, and you will have a hit rate in 2 out of 10 at least. I'm since 20 plus years in my job in IT, never ever had a situation where I asked for help and the one I'm asking said, no, I'm not helping you. Never ever. So, and please go and do bold and ask people for getting a mentorship. So, and mentorship doesn't only necessarily mean long weeks, intensive coaching type of thing. The majority, I mean, and we've been doing over 1,000 mentoring sessions per year since 2018, right? We have a vast experience of mentorship, and the average amount of sessions are two. After two sessions between your mentor and mentee, the mentee is in the position saying, yeah, I got it. Now I know where to go, how to go. Thanks for supporting me. And afterwards, it's just like a soft networking after a while. But even two sessions will help you a lot to really clear out your questions, clear out your guidance. So get some orientation, get some inspiration, and pave your path through your dream job or career change.
Definitely. So we have had the first element of the triangle, how LIYA works, namely the people that are willing to acquire skills or a degree. Then we are having the second component, which are mentors and the people that are supporting on acquiring certain skills. The third element that I can also see in this triangle is the aspect of recruiting and also the companies that are being open to that. I would be curious to learn how you approach companies and how you persuade them, well, to work with you and then to go onto the path where the people are supported even though their CV might not be shiny or might not yet have the skills that are required.
Great illustration also, Elena. I love it. And let me put it this way. This recruiting angle, we need to look at it from two perspectives. One perspective is me as someone who is going in that triangle. Let's say a young professional. So and now imagine a young professional, a young Elena, a very young Ekrem starting their jobs, for example. Imagine we defined our skills, our future skills, did this kind of skill pass and skill exploration and so on. We then identified, oh, wow, I mean, the best job for this skill is solution architect. So I go to a mentor and got mentorship. I mean, and maybe second mentorship. And this mentor said, hey, Elena, I love your passion. And look, talk to this guy as well. And I connect you with this one as well. And look at this company. They're looking for solution architects and so on and so forth. So imagine you in this situation. You have the skills, you are mentored, you have a network. You will be hired. You don't need to do something, right? So the third pillar, recruiting, they will find you because everyone wants a person who is willing, who is passionate, who is doing a skill assessment, looking for a mentor, and so on and so forth. So it will be easier. I'm not saying it's going to be a home run, but it will be easier. So on the other side, if I'm a recruiter looking for top talents, of course I'm running after the one who are in this triangle, right? So, and then I really don't care about the degree. And this is exactly the long answer to your question. It's going to be skill based. So the recruiting going forward, especially in the tech industry, but going forward, it will be, and it is, in fact, I mean, expanding to other industry as well. And in fact, I'm hearing about medical practitioners who are get hired only by their skills. So they even don't look at their medical study, right? So that's okay. If you are empathic, if you have a good hand for surgery, if you have a kind of digital mindset, yeah, I love it because the patient care, the communication to our patients is predominant in our hospital chain. So they are prioritizing the soft skills over the hard skills. The company is going into the direction saying, I don't care how you get these skills. I'm caring if you have the skills. And exactly this is the future where I'm inviting everyone to really assess themselves and not only rely on their degree. So they may have or not have. Maybe your listeners should check out my background. So I started my job career after grade 10 without high school and without university degree. And I made it to a data and AI lead at Microsoft. So, which means if you don't have a degree, no worries, count on your skills. If you have a degree, don't rely on your degree, add some skills. So, and make your profile perfect from two perspectives where really your personality, your passion, your motivation, and overall your future skills are predominant. And exactly these parameters will be assessed by the companies of the future.
You are having very, very inspiring paths, that's for sure. And what I can also hear from you is that university degree is not the bus drive that you just go into and then it will bring you to a certain point. It is also the process where you are, well, probably standing on some sort of platform and you're trying to bring things closer to you. That is cool. At the same time, when you have exemplified the current approach with medical practitioners, what I have been thinking about is how do we define that the skill is there? So again, something like empathy might be also considered to be the personal trait, not really directly the skill. And it might be coming from our birth, and that is what we have. Something like being good at problem solving might be something that is also coming from certain things that you have done in your early childhood, but might be something that you have been practicing as the skill. But when is the point that we know that, well, the skill is something that you can be talking about, something that you can put on whatever thing you are putting it on, CV, GitHub, or LinkedIn profile? When would you say that is the time to highlight the skill? Because I have acquired it.
Yeah, awesome question. I love it. And this is the most asked question also from the LIYA customers as well. Like, okay, I mean, if I don't have a CV, no degree, no picture, no name, nothing, how can I assess and prove that the skill is already existing? And the answer is quite clear and many-folded. So first of all, I mean, I give you an example of LIA. So we have a skill pilot, which means you're applying for a job and you are saying, I have sales, I have AI, I have this, I have that. And the skill pilot will really ask you a counter question saying, hey, Alina, thanks for your self-evaluation. You mentioned that you have, I mean, problem-solving experiences. Can you highlight the biggest problem you have solved? And you can talk to the AI with an audio and said, oh, well, during my university, we had this escalation in the project team and there was a huge problem and I did it. And this is very authentic, right? So then AI can really objectively say, yes, I mean, she explained, I mean, a certain situation where she solved the problem. It sounds authentic, right? So, and it is proven. But latest during the conversation, during the job interview, you need these stories to tell, and stories are your proof point, right? So you can write whatever you want on your CV, you can tell whatever you want, but during this job interview, during the conversation, this is a proof point where people will automatically feel if you have the skills, yes or no, right? So and if you are willing to learn, or if you have learned, or how authentic this is, it, right? So which means, again, imagine a situation where without Leah, you applied for a job and you said you have teamwork as a skill, problem solving, and so on and so forth. If I'm asking you, oh, Elena, tell me a little bit more about this skill, and you're like, yeah, problems. If you have a problem, you need to analyze the problem. Then you slice it in small, minor problems. Then you need to talk about it, and so on and so forth. So you can, I mean, explain it on a best practice way, or you may say, okay, listen, Alina, One day during a project assignment in the university or during my volunteer work, it was this situation. So Ekrem was totally disperforming and he was absent, and this leads to a huge problem. Then I try to talk to him. So you're explaining a situation in a very authentic way, and people will feel, and you will, of course, be very passionate about this one. And again, the proof point is face to face and storytelling, right? So if you have stories about your skills, how you gained it, where you gained, how you apply it, whether it was successful or not, people will believe and will have this as a proof point. And this also is a testimony that the CV is I mean useless for this one, right? So because people won't believe only if you write problem solving skills that oh yes, she has a problem. I mean, they will prove it anyhow. They will ask it anyhow, right? So and that's why it's kind of nonsense to care about the CV only or certifications only. You will assess it anyhow, right? So you will judge it during job interview or doing assessment, and then this is kind of another skill to master, storytelling, and tell all of these skill related stories during job interviews or during networking.
I think a very cool shortcut for this deliberate practice of gathering the proof points that you might be talking about during interviews, or you can also present them during even sales calls when you are, for example, working as a freelancer and then you would like to justify why you are the good person for a certain type of project, is actually gathering different types of stars that you have been referring to, but the ones that are rather common in the technical interviews for big tech, namely the stars that consist of situation, task, action, and result. And that is something that you can define per the story of yours, per person proof point of yours. And that does give you a way faster way of, I think, justifying that you have acquired certain skill. And then one can definitely Google on what types of questions might require the STAR methodology to be applied to your own experiences. And sitting down and writing, let's say, 10 stars of yours coming from your previous projects and coming from previous backgrounds can be cool. And then from what we have learned today, you can apply the next star of looking for alternative routes, right? Was it the alternative route? Yeah. Could
Exactly.
you remind me what your star stands for?
Skills through alternative routes.
Skills through alternative routes. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Exactly. And maybe
Nice.
in addition to your point, actually, because I love the advice of writing down all these skills. And some listeners may think now, yeah, well, Ekrem sounds great, telling stories during job application, during interviews and so on. But I even don't have the chance to have an interview. I would do the storytelling, but what if I don't have the opportunity? I mean, having interviews, right? So also a valid question here. My advice here would be the situation I have mentioned earlier in job interviews, telling your stories. You can write them down and make a LinkedIn post out of this. So this is also a great proof point because this is personal branding, this social media footprint is also a very powerful proof point and opportunity, a platform for everyone to really, I mean, justify, verify, validate the skills you have gained. So my top 3 learnings out of my internship, or how to run a podcast, or how I did my first AI model, right? So here are my, yeah, it is kind of, I mean, overused, this top 10 list, top 3 list, and so on and so forth. But it's overused because everyone is doing it. But imagine a situation you did it for your network, and people will search for you in particularly before job interviews and so on, and they will find this article, right? So it's not like going viral with this. It's not like having a huge reputation and huge followers. It will be very useful for a point in time, for example, after you apply for a job, or in case you would like to extend your network and connect someone in HR or recruiting a department for getting a job. So this is also something very powerful I would like to mention.
To second your opinion, I think that writing things down is something that is so beautiful and so strong that we can get our thoughts into order while doing this. And if we are writing things on the paper somewhere on our table, and then it will be staying there, probably that won't have as much of crystallized thoughts as it would be if that is done publicly. With this being said, I think that writing down how I have trained my first AI model is something that, as the social media post, could help you primarily to actually put your thoughts into something that you can then rely on when you are describing this experience.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, so now the listeners have certain blueprint to follow when they are willing to design their skill set. What I would be also curious about is something with regards to designing your daily workload. And in your case, you're a father. You're also active on nonprofit organizations that support bias-free tech education. You are scaling the platform of LIYA not only in Europe, but also in Asia. So you do have a lot of things on your plate. So what I would be curious about is how you currently prioritize the scaling aspect of LIYA. Namely, what do you think is the most important thing for you to do to actually grow? And then also, how is it different, for example, between different countries? Because probably if I'm approaching the hiring manager in Japan, it would be different to how I'm approaching the hiring manager in Spain.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm a multi-passion person. This is a very recent diagnosis I got. So being multi-passionate, because I was really thinking about I need to focus on one thing at the same time, and because everything else will lead to refocusing or to doing something not properly and so on and so forth. It is okay to have multiple passions, by the way. And there's a great learning video on LIYA to that topic by Adrienne. She did great learnings on that, how to apply multi-passion and so on and so forth. So it's all about passion. As long as you're doing something with passion, it's not stress. So it's really, you'll love it and you will put a lot of energy in there, a lot of time in there, but you will get also a lot of energy and time back because you do it properly, you're doing it wisely, you're doing it with preparation, and you're doing it efficiently, right? So, and this is something which I try to do, right? So I really prioritize my different workloads, so to say. I'm not compromising on my volunteer work, on my social give back to the society and to the young generation, because this is the origin of my company. GDEXA stands for Global Digital Excellence Association. So, and this is infused in our name that we are a nonprofit in this area of skilling, mentoring, and so on. And we are just commercialized now and kind of incentivize our social work with the commercial solution LIYA, which we have for recruiters and hiring managers. So if you plan it wisely, this will work out and you will get a lot of energy out of this. So in terms of the scaling of LIYA, so well, we are living in a very unprecedented world. Everything is changing and a lot of problems and challenges are coming. We are going through wars and recessions and so on and so forth. So it would be very naive that I'm going all in with one product in one market to one focus area. So that's why I have multiple channels for LIYA. One is recruiting, skill-based hiring in Germany. So I'm landing and stabilizing the German market right now. I have plenty of customers using LIYA quite successfully, but this is still not enough, right? So this is still a mode where I need to do something else, which means in parallel, I'm landing in another country geography, which is Asia in my case. So this land and expand strategy works quite well. So I landed in Germany, I'm expanding now and stabilizing. While I'm doing this stabilization, I'm landing somewhere else. So, and with all this learning I gain from this expansion in one country, I can really prepare my landing to another geography. So, and you're totally right. Of course, the culture is different. Job situation is different, but there are a lot of similarities. So I'm focusing on this one. I'm saying, oh, well, in Germany, these skills are most demanded. If I may ask if it's in Japan the same? And funny enough, there are a lot of similarities. Because the world is getting even more globalized, right? So, and there's a lot of similarities, especially when it comes to human interaction, right? So, because there are recruiters looking for personalities and talents, and here's the same. So, the overall end goal is the same: matching and connecting the talents to the companies. But of course, the process and the culture and the approach might differ, and exactly this minor differences I'm applying to my platform, but counting more on the similarities, which are a lot. And then it will work out saying, okay, I have one geography stabilized and expanding, and one is landing. And hopefully then after I landed in another geography, then I have two similar countries and geographies running at the same time. And of course, this will then lead to the third one, right? And it will make my life even easier because after a while you have a global blueprint, you know how to land, you know how to expand, and you can reuse a lot of strategies and a lot of best practices.
Wow, that is so cool. And for all the multitaskers or the ones that think that they are multitaskers out there, maybe you are indeed also a multi-passionate person rather than a multitasker. And at the same time, think that your hobbies and your activities out of the direct paths within your role actually bring you to the what you are describing as a land and expand when it comes to maybe switching jobs, maybe opening potential opportunities for you. That is indeed very interesting.
Absolutely. It will be 100% useful, everything what you're doing, because the future of work is based on fusion teams. Fusion teams will be interdisciplinary team players. So which means you need to have outside of your expertise some skills. I mean the traditional soft skills, multicultural, intercultural, this kind of creativity, problem solving, resilience, and all these kind of soft skills you can look it up. So I think all of this will give you and broaden your horizon in that regards, and yeah, will lead to a lot of learnings. That's why I mean being multi-passionate actually has a lot of benefits.
I think that you have given to many listeners out there a certain vision on how to feel about the AI era and how to will survive in it, because a lot of friends that I'm talking to are sometimes having this fear of, oh gosh, I will be replaced. I'm definitely missing out on different skills that I might be building instead of being in my daily work. Is there something that you would like to leave the listeners with regards to what is that one thing that they can be working on and they will feel comfortable in the future?
Well, I mean, we have a saying in Jidexa, one skill at the same time, right? So I think, and I totally feel that it's overwhelming. The future of work, future of learning, lifelong learning thingies, and you need to know this, you need to learn that, and so on and so forth, right? So I totally get it. So, but what's the solution? And here comes maybe a good practice. One skill at the same time means just focus on one skill or one job or one industry, whatever your learning goal is. Give you 1 month of time and daily 10 minutes. So let's say I'm focusing on computer vision technologies in the AI sector because large language models, ChatGPT, it's overused. It's commodity any longer, but computer vision is a new big thing I would like to know, right? 10 minutes per day about computer vision. One day, a LinkedIn article, another day, YouTube video, and another day, and so on and so forth. Believe me, after 2 weeks of time, if you do it just 10 minutes per day, you will say, wow, computer vision, I love it. Great, awesome, super, exactly what I'm looking for. After months, you may say, I'm continuing. I'm getting even better. I'm deep diving right now. Or you may say, no, I just like, oh, it's too complicated. No, 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 no. It's too technical, whatever. If this is the case, screw, next one. Second month, you take another skill. Let's say large language models, right? Just every day, 10 minutes on large language models only. Again, 10 minutes. It will be more in a few days because you will deep dive into the topics. But imagine you are doing this for 3 months. So either you learned about three different skills, saying, okay, in the next conversation you may have like, oh, do you know about computer vision? Oh yeah, well, I did. I did some research and I learned about this and that, but it's not so. Or you are an expert in computer vision because since 3 months you are giving a daily 10 minutes on that skill. And you were perceived as the one, whoa, you studied computer vision. So very simple trick, which I'm inviting everyone to apply quite easily. And you can apply this again to a skill, to a job, for example. You can go job by job if you don't know what to do later on. You can do it the field of study, for example, for the ones who are looking for masters, for example, or bachelors or whatever. So you can apply it to almost anything you would like to learn and get to know. And yeah, and I think with this, you will be ready for the future, actually.
Definitely. Exposing oneself every day to something new and at the same time something that you consistently work on. it does make sense that it will be indeed the good skill for the future. I love that recommendation, Ekrem. So for everyone out there who is now having the boost of energy and a great plan for, well, boosting their careers and boosting their skill sets, the question would be, where can they find LIYA? And another question would be where they can find and contact you in case of any questions.
Well, LIYA in the App Store and Google Play Store, you can download the app and start your learning journey for future skills and jobs, actually. So quite easy. You can also find the mentoring platform over there as well. So you can get a mentor as well and a lot of jobs of the future. To me personally, LinkedIn is the best way. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and I promise that I'm every week at least going through my LinkedIn messages and try to answer each of them. So this is the easiest and best way. And I'm really inviting everyone to really connect and contact and ask questions or get some more advice. I mean, I'm happy to help. This is part of my life, actually. So I'm doing it really passionately. So it's not a stress or whatsoever. So yeah, I mean, this is the easiest way on connecting me.
Wonderful, Ekrem. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. It was really enjoyable. Thank you.
AI Ketchup brings the news. Tech solutions users can't refuse. Twice a month, it's all right here. AI products with human care.